Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Brothers Take. I'll be your host for this episode. I am Eric, and I am joined by my brother, Chris.
Hello.
And for today's episode, we're going to take a bit of a break because last episode we talked about the what we predict for the game of the year. We don't have the categories at time of recording, so we're not going to talk about that. Instead, we're going to talk about reviewing three games that we checked out independently. So I'm going to talk about Space Marine 2 because I recently got it and I've been playing it. And Chris, you're going to be talking about.
Black Ops 6, the campaign, and also Batman Arkham Shadow, but that'll be more of a backseat gamer review. I'll explain what I mean by that later.
Nice. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about. So if this is something that you have maybe some input you'd like to put in, just throw it in the comments if you're watching on YouTube or touch base with us on our socials, which are Facebook, X, Instagram, or maybe there's something else that we use.
No, that's the lot.
That's the lot. Awesome. And again, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can hit that like button, ring that notification bell, and smash that subscribe button. Because I think that's what the lingo is for when you're saying that. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into this. So, Chris,
Yes.
let's let's jump into honestly, because I am intrigued. Let's jump into Call of Duty 6
Oh, Black Ops
campaign.
6, yeah. Yeah, well, I suppose of the three
Oh
games
yeah,
we're going to
sorry,
talk
Black. Yeah,
about, it's probably the biggest one.
biggest one at the moment. Yeah, yeah, for sure, because that's the most recent one, isn't it? You know what I mean? And
But also, it's going to have the most players. It's
yeah,
definitely the biggest of the three that we're reviewing in this episode.
yes. Let's start with that. Let's get this big Titanic of a game out of the way.
Yeah, and I briefly mentioned it in last week's episode, and was only able to give like very, very early first impressions, but I've since
Mm.
finished the campaign, and I'm only reviewing the campaign. I'm not a big online multiplayer guy, so I haven't jumped into that, and I'm also personally not a big zombies guy. So I know lots of people, and actually, it's really telling when you boot up Black Ops 6. On the menu, there's like the three modes across the
Mm.
screen, and the campaign is the third mode. Multiplayer is first, then zombies, then campaign, and I was really surprised at that because I always thought, would campaign not be first? Is that? And I don't know
Uh,
if it's a case of when people first get it, they're going to jump straight into a multiplayer match, and then they might link up with their friends to play zombies. And after a few goes of those things, they might eventually go, "Oh, I'll check out the campaign." But I was always when you pick up a Call of Duty game, I was always campaign. That's what I
yeah.
liked about those games. I loved the Modern Warfare trilogy, the first set of Modern Warfare games, and I loved the first Black Ops. I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed that game back in the day. I liked Sam Worthington's character, and I liked all the stuff with the numbers and the twists and
Mm.
all. And I was like, it was somewhat grounded, and then a you know, little bit
Cinematic kind of
a
spy
beautiful mind
espionage.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
No, yeah, because
So,
I remember when I was which one I was playing. There was definitely some Call of Duty game I got for free. I think it was one of the Black Ops earlier Black Ops games, and I think it was. And no, like the first you had to choose what you wanted to download first,
oh yeah, okay.
and it was either between zombies or multiplayer. So you choose between one of those two.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I think I
They're
chose
like, that's
zombies
what everyone
first.
wants to play.
Yeah, so I think I chose zombies. So zombies downloaded first, then the
Yeah,
multiplayer downloaded, and then the campaign. So I had to wait fucking ages before
yeah,
I could actually play what I wanted to play, which was the campaign.
yeah. So maybe like the campaign mode for Black Ops is like the modern day mode for Assassin's Creed games, where
Maybe.
very few people are into it,
Yeah.
and everyone else is into the other stuff. I don't know. I have no idea, but I suppose What I would say is that I haven't played Call of Duty games in a long, long, long time. I lost interest in them. And only for this was on Game Pass, I decided to give it a go. With no intention of when I started it actually saying I'm going to play this the whole way through. It was literally just
Mm,
yeah, let's I just throw it on and see. And then I was actually enjoying it, so I decided to finish it.
nice.
This is we're doing non-spoiler reviews for all these, right? Like it's not we're not doing spoiler casts or anything like that. So
Um, sure.
because
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we each like I haven't played Space Marine 2 for example or whatever.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So I'm not going to be spoiling the campaign of Black Ops 6. What I will do towards the end of this segment is if you know you know kind of thing where I will I've done this with a few games before where I name either movies or games that I was reminded of while playing it. And then it's like if you know what I'm talking about, you'll get the reference. So
Right.
I'm not going to do spoilers here. I will say it's a very varied campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Uh there's like obviously people know what the gameplay loop of a Call of Duty game is at this point, but actually at times this campaign was different genres,
Okay.
and at times this campaign had you doing very different things, playing as different characters. Um, it was all obviously very cinematic. There's sometimes there's these CG cutscenes that look
Okay.
incredible, right? And then there's
Right.
the in-game stuff. Now, I have to say, I preferred all of the in-game stuff. Even though the CG cutscenes looked amazing, they I found that anything that was cinematic that was happening in front of me was way more immersive than any like cutscenes, so to speak, where your character, because your character's face is never seen,
Mm.
your character isn't in any of the cutscenes, like the CG cutscenes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
And
see
in a
what you mean.
weird way, it's kind of like, and I will say, like they try. There's a moment in the story where they try to give the main character, um, sort of a backstory. I don't feel they explored it enough, and in honesty, I feel like the main character that you play as, which is a guy called Case, is a non-character. He's really just a doorway into like all the other characters have a lot more personality. They have backstories. You can talk to them throughout the campaign. There's optional points. There's optional like dialogue and
Mm.
stuff for interacting with characters. Um, but yeah, your character is voiceless the whole way through, which I
Right. So
also I
that's
thought
back to the old kind of
it is. I mean, the first Black Ops, Sam Worthington voiced your character.
right, but
The like in this one, it feels a bit like Dead Space One. People are talking at you, and you're not you're not saying anything. You're not really reacting to anything, and you kind of feel like a non-character in this world of characters. Um, so that's like one gripe that I had with it, where I didn't connect with the character at all. And now I will say, yeah, you're right. In the like in COD 4 Modern Warfare, Soap McTavish didn't speak,
no.
and yet there was a lot of personality to Soap, even though he didn't talk. I think it was the way the character spoke to him and spoke about him. What kind of a name is Soap anyway? You know, like there's these like iconic lines about Soap
Yeah.
McTavish, and he just had this like unusual name that kind of made him feel more of a character. And you started off as a let's see if you've got the goods as a recruit kind of thing, and you're
Mm.
working your way up, and by the end you're trusted with like the final kill kind of thing. You know what I mean? And Soap's journey felt. I felt that Soap had like a real journey in that first game. And then, of course, in the second game, you finally get to hear Soap's voice and see what he looks like.
Mm.
And throughout the trilogy, he becomes a key character. Case does not feel like a character at all. He just feels like a pair of hands holding the gun that I'm shooting.
Right. Okay.
So that's all I'll say about that. And I'm acknowledging there is a segment where they do give him a backstory. Um, but honestly, his backstory was not what I was thinking about while playing that segment.
Okay.
People will know what I mean. But so it's not a very long campaign, as Call of Duty campaigns tend not to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it is very varied. Mission to mission, you are doing very different things. And it tries to blend in the modes of Call of Duty games. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you're doing stealth, sometimes it's all out war. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So all those different modes you would expect are in the campaign, but there's a context obviously in terms of there's a mission, there's a story, there's a objective to do, which is always why I like the campaign so much. It isn't just running around just shooting. There's
Yeah.
always like a goal to it. There's a lot of weapon variety. The audio is great. The graphics are generally good. The in-game stuff isn't like the most mind-blowing next-gen stuff you'll see nowadays, but it's still like it looks good and it plays well. Music is cool at times. There's some times where there was like a metal track playing, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
Nice, nice.
um, so yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much you want to know about Black Ops 6 campaign. I will say this: I enjoyed it and was intrigued enough to want to finish it. I found
Hmm.
the ending disappointing, and I don't think I would play it again. I think once was enough, but I'm happy enough to have played it. Um, Without giving away spoilers, they kind of set up like there's going to be a continuation to this story,
There probably
and
will be.
and there probably will be. It felt a bit, and I said that actually last week with the first impressions. Like at the start, there's a big like Call of Duty logo that's a bit Marvel-esque,
Yeah.
and the ending did feel a bit like the fucking Avengers or something, a bit Marvel-y, a bit like setting up the next thing, you know. And like there was even like a shot of a character who I didn't know, and it was supposed to be like shocking, and then it ended, and I was like, "Is this like a if I played all the Call of Duties, I'd know who that was, or if like
Probably.
if I watched the Disney Plus show, I would know who that was, or if I read the one obscure comic, you know, that I would get that reference. I have no idea, but it didn't. I didn't end it with like a fuck. I can't wait for the next one. I actually ended it with a I kind of wanted to wrap up this story, like you know.
No, yeah, no,
Um,
I think all the Black Ops games are I think all of them are in continuation.
they seem to be. I mean, there's characters in this that I recognize from Black Ops One. Like Woods. Woods is in it.
He's still
Um,
alive.
he's still going. Russell Adler plays a big role in this.
Who the fuck is
Uh,
Russell Adler?
wasn't he like one of the dudes who was interrogating you in Black Ops One in during those like interlude bits, asking you what do the numbers mean
Is
and all
that his
this?
name?
I think so. You know the blonde American dude.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. He plays quite a big role in this.
Hmm.
And then I take from the way some of the other characters. There's a guy called Troy Marshall. I don't remember him, but it's very clear that he has been in other games. Like it's just from the way he plays a major role in it. He's probably the main character actually of the game, even though you're
Yeah.
playing as someone else. I don't prefer this. This is not like the best Call of Duty campaign I've played. I don't like this as much as um the certainly not as much as Modern Warfare or Modern Warfare 2. I still think
Hmm.
they are the goats that I've played so far in terms of Call of Duty campaigns. And I don't think I like it as much as Black Ops 1 either. Um, it might be better than Modern Warfare 3 though, but that one was a bit of a mess anyway. So,
Right, yeah, yeah.
you know, it might be a bit better than that. It is if people are looking for they're not, are they? Because let's face it, the people playing Call of Duty now, like Call of Duty has very much transformed. It in no way, like Adam would hate it. It is in no way a grounded military sim. You know what I mean?
No, no,
It
no,
is
no.
a sci-fi movie at this point. Like
It's Fast
it
and
is.
Furious, isn't it? Like it's
It's beyond that. It's not grounded whatsoever. Like it kind of is, but it's no, it's not. It's not grounded. And you just have to kind of go like the villains which are introduced very early on are this like secret shadow organization called the Pantheon. It's a Ubisoft game actually more than anything else, to be honest with you. It's actually very Far Cry-esque. There's moments in
huh?
it that are very like what a Far Cry game would do, very much. Um, and yeah, so it was a really interesting campaign to play. I enjoyed it, but I will probably forget about quite a lot of it.
Right.
Um, but I'm gonna throw out now the if you know you know, okay?
Okay.
And then if you have any questions, you could ask. So I'm gonna name these are some games and movies that I thought about while playing this game. either because of what you were doing in a level, either because of the level layout, or
Hmm.
the mood or tone. Okay?
Right.
So, Mission Impossible in a big way.
The first one.
This the series. Mission
All right.
Impossible
Okay.
the series
Okay.
is feels like there's a massive Mission Impossible vibe throughout, and that's some of the best stuff. Some of my favorite stuff, the like stealth and espionage and all that.
Hmm.
Ocean's 11.
Okay.
Um, Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain.
Oh.
No, it was a cool one. I liked
That's
it.
a good one.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I liked it a
Okay.
lot.
All
It
right.
was
Okay.
it worked here for me.
Okay. Fair
I'm
enough. Fair
talking
enough.
Warzone shit. I'm talking infiltrating different camps optionally,
All
taking
right.
out enemies and stuff. Yeah, that was cool. Um, Casino Royale.
Right.
Casino Royale. Now, Resident Evil. Without saying too much. Resident Evil Village Shadows of Rose. If you know, you fucking know.
This
And
is this
what
is
else?
becoming the weirdest described game ever.
Momentarily, Doom. Doom. And then also Batman Arkham Asylum. And also Layers of Fear.
This
These are the things I thought about at different moments playing the game. Oh, and at one point I thought GoldenEye as well. GoldenEye.
right, so some of those make sense. Other
Right. So you're
ones.
like, right, Black Ops. Obviously, all the mission stuff, the heist stuff, the covert stuff, the
Hmm.
and all that stuff is like my favorite shit in the game. It's so fucking cool. I think other people though will love the other aspects of this game that come up. Man, this game is scary at times. Very, very scary. Because I wasn't expecting it. I was
Right,
really
yeah.
on edge. I was really scared, and I understand why they released it in October. There was a point in this game in particular that scared the fuck out of me. That I was like, I don't even want to play this anymore. I don't even want to play this anymore. I want to stop, but also I feel like I should finish this because I feel like I'm near the end. But you're scaring the shit out of me.
I am intrigued to play that mission.
I kind of thought it would intrigue you, and
Yeah, yeah.
I'd love to hear from other people who have played it, what they think of it. I know a lot of people. I've seen some people say they absolutely love the campaign,
Hmm.
um, and I get that too. Like I enjoyed it. I think it's good, and it's certainly got real highlight moments and stuff, and cool cinematic bits and everything like that. But there is another part of me is like, oh, there's so much cheesy shit and stuff, and it's kind of uh,
Do they
not
do
really
they
what I
s-
go in for, but
do they strap rockets to a car?
no, nothing like that. Nothing like
Okay.
that.
Right,
No, no,
right,
it's just the whole like this shadow organization, the Pantheon thing, and all that. Like, I suppose I went in really interested in the fact that they were setting it in the 90s and that they were going to be
right.
tackling the Gulf War and like doing black ops in the Gulf War.
Right, yeah.
Um, and while that certainly is something going on in it, and there is mentions of say Saddam Hussein and stuff like that, you do go to Iraq, and there's
Hmm.
quite a huge portion in Iraq, and it feels like kind of classic Call of Duty, but also doing some new stuff that I wasn't expecting. I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Maybe they've done it in other games, and it's actually not that interesting. I don't know, but I hadn't seen it before. But yeah, I think I just felt that there could be enough in a storyline of infiltrating Iraq, and then the connotations of corrupt CIA,
Mm.
um, either arming in that war or getting something out of that war, and that's where the whole Black Ops covert and twisty stuff could come in, versus having that's more of a like that's going on in the background, but we're actually just dealing with this evil shadow organization, and they all have armor on them, and you have to fight like super armored enemies with Gatling guns and stuff, and it gets a bit Uncharted 2 at points, actually.
Right, yeah, yeah. Where it's just like, how do you have all this equipment if you're
Like,
supposed to be a
yeah, like how you're supposed to be like incredibly covert, and yet you have this army of people, like, and
Yeah.
nobody has ever heard of you, and yet you have so much equipment and stuff. It just felt a little bit, it got a bit outlandish, but that doesn't take away from how like cinematic and fun some of the
Mm.
the situations you find yourself in are.
Yeah.
So so yeah, I think that's my whole review really. In that
Yeah.
it's good. I liked it, but I also feel like Call of Duty has really changed from what I used to enjoy about the series.
Oh, for sure.
But
It's been
I
many
missed all the
years.
threads, so it's
Yeah.
like it felt really jarring to me, even though some of it was still like really cool and real classic Call of Duty as well. Is there anything you want to know?
Well, yeah, the only questions I would have really is for clarification
Yeah,
of the things you referenced, but considering this is a non-spoiler review of Call of Duty Black Ops 6,
yeah.
I can't really ask you those questions. I can't be like, what the hell do you mean by by Resident Evil 8 Village Shadow of Rose or Doom or whatever, because that
No,
would be
no,
spoiling that. But
it
those
would.
would be my big questions. Because I
I feel like without spoiling it, some people could. If you think about Black Ops as a series, and then if you just think about Call of Duty as a series, I think people could put a couple of like two and twos together.
sure.
But I guess in terms of tone and stuff, I was surprised how much they leaned into um, survival horror at times.
Right.
I was surprised how much they leaned into that in the campaign. Like
Hmm.
genuine scared the shit out of me stuff. Like with like imagery, not like I'm not talking about enemies or anything like that. I'm talking about actual like lighting and imagery
Hmm.
that was actually like would genuinely give me like jump scares and stuff. So I was quite impressed that they lent into it.
Hmm.
But obviously as well, there's an aspect where it's like I wasn't expecting that in a Call of Duty game,
Yeah, yeah,
and in
yeah.
one way, it's cool because it's exploring different genres and stuff. Again, maybe they've done this in other Call of Duties. I don't know. Um, but on the other hand, it's like that's not really what I was
As
what I was
expected.
going into this game for. So yeah.
Yeah, I suppose like that time I think it was Black Ops 2. That's where the one where they went into like the future. They were going back and forth between
Oh, two timelines and stuff, wasn't it?
it was like two timelines. Yeah, so there was one where it was the past where Frank Woods and Mason were dealing with the villain, and then in the future, Mason's son, I think, was then dealing with the villain again. But they actually had choices.
Oh, okay.
And it's like very small, like it was far and few between, but they had choices that could influence the way the story played out,
Yeah.
meaning there was multiple endings to the game, which I thought was really interesting because you're not expecting it from a Call of Duty game, I suppose, because
Hmm.
it's never did it. But that was an interesting thing I liked about that game. That's
Yeah.
that's your
There is
review. I
there is
am
choice
intrigued.
dialogue. There's choice dialogue in
Mm,
it, and there's missions where there's a couple of different options you can go about to pull off the objective, and you could choose
mm,
how to go about that. And then there's also ones where it's like you could choose to either go stealthy or go loud.
right.
So there is a sense of choices and options, but not in that Mass Effect kind of way where it's like choose one of these two choices and it's going to change the story or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fair
Yeah.
enough. Yeah. Right. So that's I don't have the only questions I have would be spoiler questions. I'm intrigued to play that mission though that scared shit out of you.
Right.
Uh, but that's yeah, I don't have questions on it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so I suppose I'll talk about Space Marine 2. Will I do non-spoiler?
Oh yes, of course. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, fair enough,
Let's
fair
not
enough. No.
spoil it. Jesus.
Well, it's been out for a while, you know.
I know, but I haven't played it.
Oh, you want to play it?
Who knows? Maybe, maybe.
Right.
Depends on the review you're about to give.
So this game actually first I'll just start off with visually this game is really good. And the Tyranid swarms are great. It is great when you're like up high and the Tyranids are like kind of trying to crawl up and you're just like shooting at them as they start to fall down and stuff. And when you get swarmed and you're just doing all these like brutal Doom style kills on them,
Nice.
it's just so fucking satisfying. Um, but I think that the game could do with a previously on.
All right. Okay.
The game definitely I said like you probably could play it and go, all right, they're obviously referencing the first game. Grand, cool. but I think it hits more if you actually know the first game, if that makes sense. Because you really understand Titus and his the way he is acting towards his teammates. Because there's a bit of not rivalry, but there's tension between Titus, who's the main character you're playing as, and another character on your team called Gadriel. Because Gadriel is very kind of like he's not hesitant, but he's suspecting something is up with Titus because
Okay.
Titus is over 200 years old in this game, but he is now a what's known as a Primaris Space Marine, which are new Space Marines brought about by the resurrection of the Primarch, who's mentioned in this game. So it's very like it's during the Leviathan story arc. That is what Warhammer 40K is set in at the moment. So the fact that he's older than the Primaris initiative started
Mm-hmm.
makes Gadriel go, okay, what's going on here? So that tension builds and is pretty cool. Then you have the other character, Chiron, who's a little bit more level-headed. The kind of he's the guy who tries to keep them calm, I suppose. But
He's like a
I also
mediator.
the mediator, but he also has his story that they slightly hint at a bit in it. There's definitely but say something. Subtitles. I actually found even though I played the whole game without subtitles because usually I play campaigns without subtitles. I was at a point going, who the fuck is talking? Because they sound so fucking similar.
All right, and with the helmets on,
Well, no, I didn't
like,
have the helmets on,
oh,
but
okay,
it was still just like that. They still had these deep voices that was just like
right.
I think that person is talking. So subtitles, and yes, if someone's coming in over what they call the Vox, but that's just radio. If someone's coming over the radio, sometimes that can, and you're in the middle of shooting Tyranids and smashing their faces in and throwing grenades, it's still also hard to be like, what are you saying to me? To be honest. Um, Fun game. I absolutely flew through it, but it was actually shorter than I expected.
Right.
I think there's only about six missions
Oh,
in it. Yeah. So I would be like, I wish there's at least two more. The missions aren't short themselves.
yeah.
There's just a short amount of missions. But I do,
Right.
so I am just like, oh, I wish there was at least two more, something like that. Just to kind of give a bit longer. But that's not me going, I'd never play the campaign again. Like I would. Especially with subtitles on so I can know what everyone's saying. The story itself is simple, but there's definitely a lot more emotion in Gears of War than you'd
Oh,
have.
okay, okay.
But it's still that same fun, you know? Like this is a game you can play with friends. Because it's always the three characters are together. So you can play with your friends throughout this whole campaign, so you can have that same camaraderie that you have through Gears of War. Because
Is
Gears of
it
War,
is it three player?
it's three player, yeah. And there's
Hmm.
three of us.
This
Just
might, yeah,
the
this might kind of tide me over. Go on.
yeah. So you could do, and there's also operations mode, which is a side thing that you can play three player as well, which is like
Like
kind
a
of its own
horde mode
story.
type thing, or like
No,
different missions.
yes, different missions. I'll explain that, right?
Okay, okay.
So the campaign, like there was definitely cool moments for sure, but definitely I think all the moments that had me going, holy fuck, were towards the end. So
Okay.
there's three planets you go to. It's the last planet where I was really like, holy, like this is so fucking cool. Oh my god, I can't believe that.
Right,
Um,
right, right.
for sure. But there was one bit
Can
where
I
you
ask,
have to,
just sorry,
yes,
before
yeah.
you go further, on that point, the holy fuck moments of like that planet, was that based on the context of the game itself, or is that based on your knowledge of Warhammer 40K lore in general?
Um,
Like, I just wonder, like, could a non
what
Warhammer
what
40K fan have the same reaction by just playing this game?
one of the points was no, I got it. I understood what they were saying. From being a Warhammer 40K fan, never even mind playing the first game.
Hmm.
The other moments were just like were more like I'm running somewhere and off in the distance I see something really cool. So it's
Okay.
that the vista is cool or a cool moment happens. So it's more that's what I mean. Like there was a
Okay.
point where it's actually on the second planet. You do like an orbital drop, but you literally just get a jetpack on and you jump out of your ship and you're just diving through space. You have to dodge all the debris of like all these
Oh, cool.
ships
Yeah, yeah.
exploding. So like that's on this when you're going to the second planet. So that was quite a cool moment. Um, you actually get a trophy if you hit 10 things along the way, say, and the trophy's called My Head is My Shield. So
Nice.
um
Little tip on how to get one of your
yeah, the
trophies.
yeah, just a little tip there. The villain, eh, generic. He kind of comes out of nowhere, and I'm like, who the fuck is that guy?
Right.
And these
Navarro.
he comes into I think about halfway through, and they're all like, "Oh, you." They're like, how do you know that guy's name? He has not been in it for like the whole game, but he's the villain. It's kind of a generic kind of villain, I suppose. Um, but again, this game is just a testament to what you can do at Warhammer 40K, and I think that they can do better if they keep pushing. I think this game did very well. I think it's got good reviews, so hopefully they kind of keep going with it, um, and they can really build upon this character or these characters anyway,
Mhm.
as they could go through the lore and fight more enemies and stuff. And hopefully, then they make the campaign just a little bit longer if they're doing more. Um, because I think that was my biggest thing was just kind of and also there was CGI videos, one at the start and then a few towards the end, and it was really weird because I was like, why didn't you have those CGI videos kind of throughout?
Okay.
Because they have in-game cutscenes, but let's say you had, I don't know, a sniper rifle or something like that in hand, and then
Hmm.
you enter the cutscene, and then he doesn't have that sniper in his hand. He has like a different weapon. And so it's like, okay, but if you're going to like predetermine what weapons they're supposed to hold in cutscenes, would you not just do them all as CGI cutscenes?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's obviously some more detail. Um, but as for the operations mode, at certain points in the campaign, Titus would ask his captain, right, of the battle barge that they're on, because at the end of every mission, you always go back to the battle barge. Um, and you talk to his captain, he'd be like, "Oh, look, we need to get into a place, but the Tyranid swarm are around. We need to do something to stop them, or something like that, or the Tyranid swarm is advancing, and we need them to die." And it's like, okay, fair enough. So that's obviously the next mission. We have to kill the Tyranid swarm, and he asks for soldiers, and the captain might be like, "Oh, I can spare three." And it turns out, no, Titus isn't going to do that mission. That's an operations mission. So that's
Oh,
side
okay.
content. So that's where you
Okay.
get to play as your own Space Marine that you customize
Oh, cool.
between the six classes that you choose. And each class actually has a its own voice actor and own name.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So you can't play as the same. So let's say me, you, and Adam are playing. We can't play as the same three classes. So we have to play as a separate class each
Right.
because they're each characters with their own dialogue and their own name.
Okay.
In these operation modes, and some of those missions where I was playing, I'm going like, why is this not in the main story? This is fucking awesome.
Does it maybe it is like does that count as part of the main story? Like to get the full story, you should play both.
Yeah, I suppose so, yeah.
Yeah.
Um because there again you just have like really cool Vista moments. Again, I think there was one point I was going again, this was on the last planet, so it was like there's five operation missions that are linked to the actual story,
Okay.
and then there's two additional ones that are they're in the context of the story, but they're not directly linked, I suppose. Or at least I don't remember anyone mentioning them. But there was one point I think I was on like the last planet where I was walking through, which is like a grave world. So the whole planet is just full of like gravestones. But there's one point I was walking and I just saw over embedded in a mountain was like a Titan, which is a big fuck off machine. It was like an Iron Giant, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
10 times bigger. and has like a cathedral on its back, and it's just like encrusted into the mountain. And I was like, just I was tempted to take a picture and send it to you, which I probably will do at some point. But I like
Yeah.
some of those missions were awesome, and like just really cool points. You could play with bots, so you can play offline or you can play online.
Yeah.
Playing online is better because bots don't do much towards the actual objectives.
Oh, did you play online with other people then?
Yeah. I did both. So it is better to
Nice.
play. I
Yeah.
do find it is better to play online because those people actually can do stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yes, that I've played those missions actually a good lot because I'm playing with like um each class to try level them up because if you level them up, you get customizable gear and you can upgrade your weapons and make your weapons better and you make yourself better. So that's a pretty cool mode. And then I think there's going to be updates where there's going to be more campaign missions. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's actual campaign missions to do with
Mm-hmm.
Titus or more operation missions, and then obviously more customizable gear. But yeah, no, so far like I'm having really like Gears of War. It's just really good, like the first Gears of War. First Gears of War was a very simple story,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a very good, fun story,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
was easy to
It's
just
fun to
get
play through.
into.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is like that. It's a very simple story,
Yeah.
a very fun story, but also it just I I actually would love to know what it was like for someone who doesn't know 40K to enter this world.
I wouldn't know. Like, I'd be familiar with 40K, but I wouldn't know 40K lore.
No,
Um. So maybe if I played it, I would have a very different experience to you. Like, I don't know.
no,
Um.
because I just remember someone was playing it and she just started off and she was in like this chapel place. She had the armor on and stuff, and she saw this like little flying thing and she was like, "Oh, what's that? Oh, that kind of looks really cute." She walked over to it and her face just dropped because she was like, is that a real baby?" And then obviously all the comments were like, "Yeah, no, that's a cherub." And so like that's what I'm really interested is like the horrible stuff that's in the
Right.
Imperium.
The grim dark stuff that we did a whole
Grimdark stuff that
episode
people
on, and
wouldn't be so used to when it comes to humans in space.
did this game deliver on that a little bit? Like, will Adam have his grim dark itch scratched if he plays it?
It depends on what he's looking for, I suppose.
Yeah. I suppose it's gonna be. It looks like it's more Gears of War than Blasphemous.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Jesus, let's say something else. I forgot. Ah,
It'll come back.
yeah, should do. I think it was about gameplay. Can't actually remember.
Is the gameplay fun?
Grimdark. Gameplay was very fun. Oh yeah, that's what it was. I played the whole thing on normal difficulty
Right.
instead of easy, and I actually found it quite balanced.
You're like, I was able to play it. Unlike some games.
Yeah. Well, no, just that like there was certain points when if I really got like hoarded,
Hmm.
I was like, oh shit, I could die, and I need to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Which is exactly how like the Tyranids would work against Space Marines. So when it was just one Tyranid, sometimes like one of those tiny Tyranids might jump at you, and you just press like L1, which is the parry button. But you just grab them and just smash them to the ground, and they're just like instantly dead. But
Nice.
like if they swarm you, your health starts to diminish, and you have to like try get out of there. So I thought
Okay.
that was really the play on that difficulty was really balanced because there was definitely points where I was like, oh fuck, I could die, I could die, I need to get out of here.
Right. Yeah. 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 But
Yeah.
did you? But was it balanced enough that you could also still feel like a badass? Because I feel like if you play as a space marine, but you feel weak the whole way through, you're not going to feel like a space marine, really. Like,
No, I there were certain enemies that made me feel weak, but that's
right?
because
They're supposed to, right?
those enemies are strong.
Good. Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
no,
it's
like when
balanced
I
in that regard of like the feeling of what the player should have as a space marine.
yes, yeah, for sure. Because again, it's like when you have one of those small enemies coming at you, they're nothing. You hit them once and they literally explode into into a smear of blood across the floor. But when you have one of the tougher enemies that's specifically designed for taking on a space marine, it can be a bit more of a challenge.
Yeah.
But you just absolutely riddle them with bullets. God, the fucking sound design of the bolters just absolutely launching it, all the bullets flying away, and just the chainsaws and using all the different weapons was just awesome. It was so
We
good.
were talking last week about making like predictions for the Game Awards, and we were only really focused on the Game of the Year category,
Mm.
and like what games we think could be nominated in that category. Towards the end, and we talked about other games that, oh, I wonder will it be in there anywhere. And we did talk about Space Marine 2. After playing it, do you think it could end up in a category as a nominee, or do you think it's one
The
that's going to get neglected?
the only one I could really see it getting into might be like if there's just a best action or best multiplayer,
Okay,
maybe.
yeah,
But I think it probably still has some like real tough competitors in that regard as well.
yeah,
Yeah, so if it's not really in there, I'd be like, well, it probably because the other ones did do better
yeah.
in that regard.
And it wouldn't be anything against the game then, because as you're saying, it's a very fun game to play, but maybe it's
Yeah.
just not like in the grand scheme of video games, it's not like a huge landmark game that's gonna like change the gaming sphere and like people are gonna like you
No, no,
know
I'd even like I even thought as well like with the story, it was very it's a good story, but it's a very safe story.
okay,
And the gameplay is serves its purpose, but yeah, it's not breaking any grounds. Um, and I just think like with the length of it, you know what I mean? I think the length of it might go slightly against it because it's quite short in comparison
right,
to other action adventure style
100 hour
games.
games
Yeah, 100
nowadays.
hours games and there's all sorts of stuff and
But are you finding like because I would say like playing through like the Black Ops 6 campaign for example with how short it actually was, it was refreshing to me to like start a game and finish it within a few days and be like,
oh
I
yeah.
actually started and finished a story. Like for you even though yes, for like someone who maybe buys the game and then maybe doesn't get as much longevity out of it as they would with some other games. But for you personally, did it was it nice to play a game that was actually quite short for a change and not hundreds and hundreds of hours or
Well, I certainly did not want it to be hundreds and hundreds of hours. I think I wanted just maybe just another mission or two in there.
yeah,
Um, just to kind of you're just to kind of spread it out just a little bit.
okay.
Maybe just to give a little bit more hours to it. But no, like yeah, it's great to like play a game that's just here is the game, and you don't have to
Hmm.
die 50 times on one boss because they're just have stupid rules or something. Or just yeah, it's like, oh, here's 300 hours of a game where you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. Climb the tower, press triangle. Oh, look at this vista. Jump off.
That scene pointed. But anyway, sounds good.
Yeah, oh, that I don't really want to give too much away
Yeah,
on it. But that would be my kind of general review of it. The closest thing, unlike you, where I can't be listing off at ten different products of what it reminded me of. It reminded me of
Space Marines and Gears of War.
it reminded me of the game Space Marine, the first one,
Yeah,
Warhammer 40K, and yeah, Gears of War with the
yeah.
main ones.
I don't know. That's good though. I mean, I think from the outside looking in, that's probably exactly what people want going in.
Hmm,
I do. I think this is a game that I know it's not yet, but if it eventually, because obviously it'll only sell so much, right?
right,
Because it's not a hundreds hour games kind of thing,
right, yeah.
and it'll probably be resold as well. Anyone who buys physical copies will play it for a while, and then some people might sell it back when they're like, I've kind of done everything with it now.
Hmm,
Maybe after all the like updates have stopped. Um, I think it's one that would do well on Game Pass.
for sure, yeah.
If it came on, I could see a lot of people jumping into it if it was on Game Pass, and it'd
Oh
probably
yeah.
be a good thing for the
Well,
game actually.
it actually has, its multiplayer has crossplay, which is awesome.
Oh fuck off! Please come to Game Pass. That'd be great.
Yeah, it has crossplay. So like
That's fantastic.
I was playing with someone who was using PlayStation and another person was using PC.
Oh, cool. Okay. Is it on Xbox actually? I know it's on PlayStation and PC. Surely it's on Xbox.
I
It's
don't know, you'll have to check.
only because you know when you associate you play some games and you associate them with a certain like you play Astrobot and you're like, well that's a Nintendo game. I know it's on PlayStation, but it's a Nintendo game really.
Right, yeah.
Or like you might look at like that game that was shown during the Xbox showcase earlier this year was it Midnight South or South of Midnight? I think it was.
Oh,
It
that
kind of looked a
yeah,
bit like Kena Bridge of Spirits or something like that. And you're
but
looking
it
at it
had like the
going,
animation of Spider-Verse or something, didn't it?
yeah, yeah, but you're looking at it going, well, that's a PlayStation game on Xbox, but it's really a
Yeah, yeah,
PlayStation
yeah.
game.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I look at Space Marine 2 and I'm like, that's an Xbox game. If it's not on Xbox, I'll be surprised because I think I,
Yep,
I
check it
always
out.
think of big, bulky multiplayers are Xbox games. That's
Fair enough. Fair.
because Gears of War and Halo. You know what I mean? That's
Mm,
what I think of. So, um, yeah, cool. Sounds good.
yeah, you'll find the chainsaw probably not as satisfying as the gears of the chainsaw, but it's
But
still
always
pretty good.
satisfying. Oh,
It's
is the soundtrack good? Is there like metal soundtrack? There should be metal soundtrack.
no,
Oh, okay. But is it still good?
it's fine.
Okay. The soundtrack didn't like stand out then.
No, the soundtrack didn't stand out to me.
Okay, okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. All right, so we go on to now Arkham Shadow, Chris's backseat gaming,
Yeah, so
backseat viewing, or
to clarify what this is, and maybe because I don't have the Quest, um, none of us do. So it's not a game we'd be able to play without buying it, and I also have no intentions of buying it for just one game. Like this, if I get a console, there has to be a few games to actually play on it. And there's nothing else. I'm not a big VR guy in general. I think they're really cool experiences for about 20 minutes, and then it's like I need a break. Whereas
right?
I
Yeah.
really like the traditional controller screen console setup. Um, but I'm also a massive Batman fan and a massive Arkham series fan. And I've actually replayed the Arkham games this year because I played Arkham Asylum and City on the Switch. They actually play really well on it. I know the remastered trilogy
Mm.
for the Switch reviewed really badly, right? And I have to say, Asylum and City played really, really well. Okay. Then before I went down tonight, I was like, oh man, I gotta play Origins again. I'm having such a good time. So I played through the two of those games, loved them, as always. Picked up Origins on the 360 to play on the Series X.
Mm-hmm.
So played through all that again. Was like, oh man, this game was underrated. Like it's actually really good. And then went to play Arkham Knight on the Switch. It is unplayable. You stick to the PlayStation for that one. PlayStation is the best place to play Arkham Knight. So I actually didn't. I must go back and play that again on PlayStation, but because it's absolutely. I understand why there was negative reviews for the Switch port for the remaster trilogy, but it is mainly for Knight. Knight is unplayable on that console. It is just ridiculous. But the others, I'm going to keep the game for the others. So as a massive Arkham fan and someone who's really into it, and I was keeping up with all like the interviews and stuff for Arkham Shadow, and I was like, oh, I so wish this wasn't a VR game.
Mm.
Everything they're saying, I want to play. The fact that they were saying that their main inspiration was like Arkham Asylum in terms of level layout, in terms of game length, in terms of like what you'd be doing in the game, collectibles, boss fights, predator modes, takedowns, all that stuff. I was like, this is exactly what I want. An original Arkham story that still adds to the lore and all this. So I was too intrigued by it. Not intrigued enough to spend the amount of money it would cost to actually get this and play through it, especially when
Yeah.
I'm not a big VR player.
Mm-hmm.
But on Arkham videos, I think it's called, on YouTube, they put up in sections the entire game. A walkthrough of the entire game. Every
Nice.
tiny detail, picking up everything, looking at everything. They show you all the different dialogue options and what happens as a result of them. And I watched the entire thing. So, this is not a review of Arkham Shadow, as in I could tell you how it feels to play it or anything like that. I
Mm.
can't tell you if this makes you feel like Batman. You'll need to refer to those who actually played it. But as a massive Batman fan and Arkham fan, I can do a story review of Arkham Shadow. And what I would say is if you have the Quest, get this fucking game. And if you don't have the Quest and are like me and don't really want to jump into VR, watch this fucking walkthrough. I want them to remake this game as a third person game so badly. I thought what Camouflage did with this story and with this world is fucking excellent. I loved the characters they brought into it. I loved how they tied it in with it being a sequel to Arkham Origins, but a prequel to Arkham Asylum.
Hmm.
I think the voice talent they have here is excellent. Um,
They got Roger Craig Smith back, didn't they? For
yeah,
Batman.
he's doing Batman.
Yeah, that's nice.
And some of the other um voice actors from the series are back to reprise their roles.
Nice.
And then there's some new actors playing roles as well. For example, they did announce Elijah Wood would be playing Dr. Jonathan Crane.
Hmm.
Um, they do some really interesting twists and turns with the story. And while when you get to a certain point where the reveal of the Rat King, who is the mysterious villain, it does get to a point where it gets kind of obvious who that's going to be.
Hmm.
However, it's refreshing, and this is not a spoiler, I don't think. It's refreshing that it's not the Joker.
Ah,
I
okay,
will say
yeah.
that. It is not the Joker this time. They actually finally allow a different villain to have the spotlight. You know what I mean?
Nice.
And then at times in the story, they do actually point towards other people and they try to throw you off the trail. And it really is, as all good Batman stories are, it is a detective story where he's trying to uncover the mystery of who is the Rat King and to
Hmm.
stop the day of wrath that is coming. And there's a countdown to the day of wrath. There's a daytime, nighttime cycle. It finally doesn't all take place in one night, one
Brilliant.
ridiculously long night where everything is happening.
With the
They're fun to play, but you do get to a point where you go, this is ridiculous. And especially in
How
Arkham
big was the moon?
Origins, how big was the moon? That's a good question.
Ah, they didn't look up the moon.
I don't
Ah,
remember the
okay.
moon all that much. Um,
Because I remember that was the thing I brought up when we were talking about the Arkham games, was just the ridiculous size of that moon.
it's mainly an asylum, right? I don't think the moon is as prevalent in any of the other games. Actually, I think it's just asylum,
No, why? Well,
and it's
you were
also on
saying
the cover of Asylum. It's like
it's fucking
he's
huge.
standing in front of this massive fucking moon. No wonder
It's
everyone's crazy.
ridiculous.
You were saying,
The place should be flooded.
yeah, yeah.
But no, night was night not the most ridiculous one for it
No, I don't
for
think
it
so.
taking place in one night, taking out all
Oh,
of.
no, no, no. The reason I say Origins is the most ridiculous is because Blackgate gets taken over twice in one night
Oh
in,
yeah.
in Origins, and they do like they do a big breakout twice in one night. And like I had assumed playing it that they weren't the same night, that the intro to the game was a different night, and then the
Hmm.
rest of the game happens. But then in the end credits, I remember for Origins now, there's like a whole news report saying like Blackgate Prison broken into twice in one night. Our justice system is failing us. I was like, that was the same night. This is fucking ridiculous. So that's why I say that one is the most ridiculous. Like obviously,
Alright,
yes,
okay.
you have the most stuff to do in night. Um, but in Origins, there's events that are happening that's like that would all have taken way longer. Like, what time is it? Like, what did that happen at 5 o'clock in the evening, and then it happened again at 2 o'clock in the morning? Like,
Kind of.
like, and in all that, what they put the Joker in prison, locked him up in all in one night. They didn't go to a holding cell or anything and have to wait a court case. Or, like, that's what I
That's
mean by like Origins is ridiculous. But I do love that this game, Arkham Shadow, pays a lot of love to Origins.
Hmm.
There's characters from Origins in this. There's references to Origins in this. There's little echoes you can find in the game as you creep through the different corridors and stuff that are like kind of like Shadow Moses moments. They're like flashbacks to
Nice.
dialogue from both Origins and the Vita game, Origins Blackgate.
Oh yeah.
Like they reference that as well. They reference events there. Um,
How
so
many
they're
times does
really
that
like
get breaking into?
Blackgate gets a lot of trouble. So they've really done a good job at like acknowledging the lore of the Arkham series,
Hmm.
but they're not afraid to add new stuff.
Hmm.
And to do some cool new stuff that I like. In particular, I know in the first 2 hours there is like a twist that they left out of all of the marketing. And they
Nice.
even told people who were playing it, they were like, please don't reveal that twist. We want people to experience for themselves. and it's really good. Like the game, um, I would say everything that they've shown people in the trailers, kind of like. Do you remember when um the Russo brothers were advertising Endgame,
Right. Yeah.
and the trailers all looked like a very full movie?
Mm.
But they said most of the stuff we've shown you in the trailers is actually only the first 15 minutes of the movie
Yeah. Yeah.
because they were trying to keep so much of it secret. I would say Arkham Shadow is the same. Most of what they've shown in the trailers is within most of it is within the first 2 hours of the game,
Wow.
and the rest of it, what's going on and what's happening, and the moment to moment gameplay, has been kept secret. And I was like, that's very impressive. It's very very good. There's cool themes going on. There's really cool. They've utilized characters that haven't been used in the Arkham series yet.
Hmm.
And I'm, as a lover of the Batman Rogues gallery, I just love any interpretations of characters, especially that we haven't seen as much of. So all those like deep dives and Easter eggs, and there's so many Easter eggs. There's so many things, like if you pick up a newspaper and turn it around to read the article, there's little tidbits here. There's like radio shows where they mention characters. There's like secret frequencies you can like pick up. One of them in particular, I was like, Eric would love that. And it's not necessarily just a Batman reference, but it's a DC reference. And I was like, and it's a character that you fucking love. And I was like, that's fucking awesome that there's a little reference to that in
Character
there.
that I love from DC.
Um, yeah, it's just really the attention to detail. And I said this from the start, like I haven't played this game.
Mm.
I've just watched an entire playthrough of the game. So take this review more like girlfriend reviews kind of thing. The person who watches someone else play it and then gives their experience of what it was like to watch it. And so I don't know what it's
new
like.
segment is brother reviews.
Yeah. I don't know what it's like to play this game, but to watch it, I am so impressed with the
Mm.
level design and the storytelling that happens in this game. Obviously, VR games graphically don't look, as good as, they're still quite early on in their developmental phase.
Mm.
I would say the graphics here look maybe as good as Arkham Asylum first looked on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360.
That's not too bad. That's
It's
fine.
not it's not too bad at all.
Well, here's the thing as well. Actually, VR, I do notice, is very different when you're actually in it.
Agreed.
It's
Yeah, agreed.
weird. It's
Yeah.
like if Adam was ever playing somewhere, you were playing something, and let's say I was looking at the screen, it's the TV.
Mm-hmm.
It always looked quite meh. But when you put it on, it's like, holy shit, it's looking amazing. So that guy or person who was playing it that you were watching probably was like, wow, this looks so real.
Oh
Newspaper looks
God,
just
yeah.
like this.
And there's so many stuff you could play around with, and then there's phones in the game, like pay phones, and if you ring certain phone numbers that you can either find on posters or whatever,
Hmm.
you will get Easter eggs as well. Like
What the fuck?
there's a
Jesus.
load of phone numbers you can ring, and like for example, this one I can kind of give away because it's very early on, right? Like Harvey Dent is one of the characters in the game. It's nice to see him like this is
Two-Face,
before
yeah.
he's Two-Face or anything like that. So it's just like him, Gordon, and Batman are trying to find the Rat King together,
Hmm.
and um, you could see like on his campaign poster like a phone number to ring,
Hmm.
and if you ring it, you get straight to like the voicemail, and it'll like it'll be Harvey Dent and saying about like how he wants to save Gotham, and it's like if you'd like to make a donation to my campaign, and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But if you can find so many other phone numbers as you go through it, and there's like an Easter egg for all of them. So
Nice.
it's there. That's a really cool feature, and like it doesn't tell you pick up the phone and ring a number. It's just there's a phone there, and if you decide to ring numbers, you might get responses.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then I will say as well, I think a lot of people when they think VR as well. Again, I'm not into the VR play style. It's just personally not for me. But I think a lot of people would be thinking like, do you remember Arkham VR? Like the one
Yeah,
that
it's very
Rocksteady
you
did,
point and click
point
to
and click.
move around.
This is not like that. You are actually running around the space. You can zip line up to gargoyles. You can climb things like poles, ladders, bricks. You can glide across the screen, and it's not just a push button and it skips you over to there. You do physically glide. You can use your cape in combat. You physically punch and fight people. You throw gadgets. You actually have to take the gadgets off you. So like the smoke bomb, you pull it off your arm and throw it down. The
Mm.
batarang, they did like the Batman thing on it, where the batarang is in your chest and you can actually pull it out and throw it.
Oh, cool.
You have detective mode. You turn that on. You create crime scenes where you reverse the crimes and stuff and try solve the pieces. It's very impressive. Like it's a proper Arkham game and not just a. Oh, this is kind of like an Arkham game in VR. Like
Right.
they've translated it very well. There's boss fights. There's collectibles in the game. Uh, Not Riddler trophies, something else instead. So it's kind
Nice.
of
Okay.
again they've like, let's give you all the stuff you do in an Arkham game, but let's take a break from some of the stuff that maybe people have done a little bit too much. So like let's take a break from the Joker, let's take a break from the Riddler, let's give some other villains
A chance to
a
shine. Yeah.
chance to shine in the spotlight. Um, and then I'm really impressed with the writing and the performances. Tara Strong is incredible as Harley Quinn in this game because she's Dr. Harleen Quinzel this time around,
Yeah.
and she balances really well. There's moments where you're hearing Harley Quinn, and then
Mm.
there's moments where she's a genuine psychiatrist.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
And the way she nails it in her voice is fucking really impressive. It's a Harley Quinn that we haven't seen before, and
Mm.
that I've been kind of dying for a version of. She's really good in it. And then there's some other characters in it that I don't want to give away spoilers to see of who's in it and stuff, because I do think people should experience it for themselves, especially Batman fans. But some of them I'm just like, oh, that's such a good like interpretation of that character. There's one character in here where I mean, if you're a Batman fan, you know the twist
Right.
with this one character in particular. Um, just the moment you hear his name, you're like, oh, that's gotta be, who I think it is.
Mm.
Um, but it's not one where you're like, oh, that's stupid. Sure, I knew that. It's actually when you're like, I want to see like this is gonna go
How to
down.
go about it?
I want to see how like what the reaction to this is going to be, because I mean I fucking know exactly who that is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, so that was really cool as well. Um, but I don't know how much more I could say because obviously this is non-spoiler,
Yeah.
except just to say that again, if you have the Quest, I would say get this game. It looks absolutely brilliant, and it's a really really compelling story. It kind of rushes in its finale, but most
Mm.
of the game is just so well paced. And then if you haven't got VR and you have no intention of getting VR, I really enjoyed watching the walkthrough experience, and I would recommend that to people as well. And you will get a full feeling of what the story is and what's involved in the game.
How long is it?
It's about let me see. There's 5 videos that I watched.
Right.
Most of them are 2 hours long each.
Okay.
One of them is 3 hours.
Okay. It's
So
actually pretty.
all in all, you're getting to about a 10-hour game.
That's not a bad length game for a VR. That's actually probably quite long for a VR game, but
Yeah, again,
because
they said that their biggest inspiration in terms of game length game design was Arkham Asylum. They were trying
which
to
I
aim for a similar length game.
which was a good length
Yeah,
game.
Arkham Asylum was one of the best paced games ever.
Mm.
Like I only hammered that home even more when I replayed it this year. I was like, there is no moment in this where I feel like I'm just doing the same thing again, even though like there's always like a little something different. It's like, oh, this time you're doing predator mode, but they've got bomb collars, so you have to watch out
Yeah.
for that. Or this time you're doing a detective mode, but you're against a ticking time bomb, or like they're
Yeah.
always throwing something else in, or it's like, okay, now to break up the pace, it's time for a scarecrow bit.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Asylum does that really well, and I do think that this game, even though there's slower points where the gameplay does slow down a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to say why, um, they just do a really really good job at pacing the game out, and it's really nice to have a daytime nighttime cycle in the way that they do it.
Yeah. Does Batman ever go toilet?
Can you go to the toilet in this game? I think you can go into toilets, but I don't think you can actually do the action of going to the toilet.
I was just wondering, like, because he
Yeah,
spends a very long, like, like you were saying with
he
Origins.
has no bladder.
It's not, he doesn't seem better or sleep. He has no sleep.
No, sleep is not necessary when you are the
No.
knight.
Yes. Anyway, so is there anything else you would like to say on Arkham Shadow?
No, only that again, I really want them to remake it as a third-person game. I would fucking love to play it.
Nice, nice.
And it's just a shame that VR isn't really for me. But I do think that Camouflage have done an incredible job. I hope more Arkham games get made in whatever format, because I just think there is more story to be told in that world, particularly in that time period of Batman first meeting people. That's such a
Hmm.
fascinating time period. And there's other villains that he's, it'd be nice to see him meet for the first time in the Arkham universe. Because obviously from Arkham Asylum onwards, he kind of knows the villains quite well, bar a few. So I hope they make more. And I'd be really surprised if Arkham Shadow isn't up for best VR game in the Game Awards.
Hmm.
And from watching it and experiencing it that way, I'm fucking voting for it. I think it should win. I think it's really, really impressive.
Fair enough. Well, thank you very much. That would be pretty much that's everything then for this
Yep.
episode. That was Chris's non-spoiler review of Call of Duty Black Ops 6, the campaign only. His non-spoiler review of watching of his brother's watches of Arkham Batman Arkham Shadow, and then my non-spoiler review of Space Marine 2. So again, if you liked this and you're on YouTube, you can hit the like button, ring that notification bell, smash the subscribe. If you have any comments that you want to make, drop them in the comment section below. Or if you're not watching us on YouTube and you're listening to us on any of the other audio platforms that we're on, you can touch base with us on our socials, which are Facebook, Instagram, and X. I have been Kris, and I was joined by...
Wait now. What?
No, I've been Eric.
I was like, wait, who am I? If you've been Kris, I guess I've been Eric. Having an identity crisis.
This is what happens when I do the fucking intros and outros.
I don't know who I am.
I've been Eric, and
I
I was
have been
joined
Kris.
and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.